Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jane Stevens. I'm the training manager here at Zolo. And today we're talking about buyers, working with buyers, where they come from, who they are, how to find them. So lots of information to cover today. But before I do get started, I'd love to hear from you guys and find out who I have in my audience here today. So what your experience level is so that I can tailor this training to you. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll if you don't mind answering that. I will leave it up for about a minute, and while I'm waiting for your responses, I will jump in and just show you the training calendar for this month. So as you can see here, we have lots of exciting training sessions lined up. We always offer our new agent orientation on Mondays and Wednesdays. They're in two parts because part one is all about the CRM, converting those calls to showings. And then part two is web forms, where we convert those showings to deals. So we really talk about how to put a deal together in web forms. So that's always available for you guys to attend. And then, of course, we have a lineup on Tuesdays that looks like leases, buyers, sellers, and customer service. And then usually on Thursdays, I have a guest speaker join us. So today we're talking about buyers, and on Thursday, we're talking about mortgages with Mahir at Zolo Mortgages. So stay tuned for that. And let me see the results here of the poll. So thanks you guys for answering. I will leave it up for 2 more seconds here. Lots of responses. Thank you so much. All right, so it looks like half today, 52% of you have just recently been licensed in the last year. So welcome to real estate, welcome to Zolo. It looks like we have the next tier is 19% of you have been in the business for less than 3 years. So that is awesome. How many leases have you done? 57% of you haven't done any yet, which is that's okay. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to discuss. And then how many buyers have you done? Again, 50% of you have done none. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today, working with buyers. So thanks again so much for your input. I'm just going to share the results there so you can see what I'm seeing as well. All right, let me just make sure that everybody is admitted. And if you guys have questions throughout the session, please let me know, chime in. We've got the chat box, we've got the Q&A. So don't be shy, chat with me, and happy to hear from you guys. All right, so I'm going to stop the share there. And just before we do get started, I do want to remind you guys that all this information is available to you really at the click of a button. So if you log into your CRM, you'll see that under your tools drop-down menu, you have something called Academy. So if you simply click on that, that will take you to our brand new Zolo Academy. So you can use your Zolo email and password to log into that. And then you do have access to all of these webinars. And then you do have all of this content available to you in bite-sized pieces. So if you are looking for information on something specific, you can jump in, you can find it, and it'll take you a couple of minutes to gather the content. So lots of different ways for you guys to access education and training here at Zolo. So this is one of them. So I do encourage you guys to check out the Zolo Academy. All right, at the end of this webinar, I will follow up with an email to a link or with a link to the Zolo Academy, as well as any other relevant content that we've discussed today. All right, so as I said, feel free to chat with me as we go along, because today, yes, we're talking about working with buyers. So if you guys are brand new to real estate and you're still working through those first 5 leases, it is quite possible, of course, that some of those leases may turn into buyers right away, hopefully, usually not until after their 1-year lease term is up. That's usually when they are, really ready to buy. But there are situations, it's happened, I've seen it happen, where you have a lease lead who's willing to provide a deposit of a full year up front. If that's the case, then they might have, enough for a down payment. So definitely have that conversation with them. Definitely put them in touch with Zolo Mortgages, see what they're qualified to do. And then, of course, hopefully you can help them find something to buy. But typically, your lease leads are going to convert hopefully a little bit later on. So stay in touch with them throughout the term of their lease so that when they are ready to buy, hopefully they think of you. All right, so let's talk about buyers. What we've done today actually is I've pulled some really interesting information, I think, and I'd really like to share that with you. So show me the buyers. Who are they? Where can we find them? So of course, there are a bunch of different age groups, right? So we've got the silent generation born between 1925 and 1945. We have the older boomers, we have younger boomers, And then we, of course, have Gen X, which based on this graph shows that they were born between 1965 and 1979. And then we have the older Gen Y or millennials, and then the younger Gen Y and millennials. As of 1999 to present, those are our Gen Zers. So who's buying? Who out of all of these demographics are buying properties? So that's what I've compiled here for you guys today so that you understand who they are and how you can target them, or who you should be targeting, right? Who's really the bulk of buyers? So let's find out a little bit deeper here. Age of the home buyers. So yes, we have Gen Zers. They're 25 years or younger. So you can see there that not a lot of those are ready to buy yet. But then you have these younger Gen Y millennials, aged between 22 to 29, and they account for 13% of home buyers. But you can see really here that the fat middle, as they like to call it, are going to be your older Gen Y millennials and your Gen Xers. So between 30 to 54 years old. So those are going to be the bulk of the buyers that are out there. So their median age in each of those groups is 34 to 47. So really interesting to know who the buyers who they are out there, what their age demographic is, because that's going to help you tailor your conversations with different people, right, where they might be at. And of course, from there, the numbers do go down. So the young boomers, the older boomers, the silent generation, are less of the buyers. So definitely focusing on the 30 to 39-year-olds and the 40 to 54-year-olds. But I like to break this down a little bit further to determine, their household income, but also we'll get to who are our first-time home buyers, because that will help us with these conversations that we're having. So just some interesting slides here today in terms of their income. So the age of home buyers, it looks like, let me see here, what is the average? We're looking at, a medium of, for all buyers, about 93,000 per year. So, we're looking at people who, are employed. So these are things to know definitely when you're speaking to, for example, those lease leads. What are they doing? What sort of income are they earning? And if you're talking to somebody who does have an income of around 100,000 and you know that they have a larger deposit, that's a good indication, knowing these stats, that they could possibly qualify to purchase a home. So again, putting them in touch with Zolo Mortgages and hopefully getting them pre-approved so you can help them with that process. All right. So also really interesting to know is who the adult composition is of these homebuyer households. So it looks like the majority are going to be married couples, but as you can see here, across the board, you also have unmarried couples who, you could definitely target and speak to about buying properties. And then of course, you've got the single males and females in there as well. So just really interesting to know who these buyers are. But what's really great to see here is who is using the internet to search for homes. And really across the board, 84% are looking online. So that's what makes us so fortunate here at Zolo, is that so many people are using the Zolo website and the Zolo app to search for homes online. That's where they start. And then of course, we're connected to that. So if they do have questions about a property online, which is again, where most people are starting their search, they're connected to us, and then we have the opportunity there to convert those leads, of course, to showings, and eventually showings to close deals. So across the board here, as you can see, everybody's using the internet to search for homes. And again, here at Zolo, we have the #1 real estate app in Canada. So definitely they're using our app, which means we have exposure to a lot of buyers. This is really interesting because I get this question a lot, especially when agents start out working with buyers. What is the average length of time that you should be spending with a buyer? And of course, as we all know, we have some buyers who are decisive. They're not going to waste time. They're going to contact you because they are really ready to search for homes. They are serious. They know what they are looking for, and they're going to go out. They're going to view a few properties, hopefully submit a winning offer, and it's a closed deal. While you have other types of buyers who, might be not quite ready, they're not quite sure what they want, they're not quite sure what their timeline is. Of course, I always recommend still working with those buyers, because even though they're not ready now, they are interested, and hopefully they'll be ready later. So, just work with them. You'll tailor your services differently, of course, to somebody who isn't as clearly ready. You probably won't be taking them out every day, but you do want to engage with them and have them part of your database, right? So that you can stay in touch with them systematically. So number of weeks. So on average, all buyers take about 10 weeks to find a property. I'd love to hear from you guys if you think that's accurate or not. Number of weeks that they've searched on their own before contacting an agent. This is an interesting number. So across the board, it looks like, they were searching for a couple of weeks before contacting a buyer's agent. So again, I'd love to hear from you guys what you think on that. And then total number of homes viewed. Now, I know that we all have, if you have worked with buyers before, again, you will have that experience with buyers who, maybe you show them less than 9 properties. Maybe you show them a few, 3 to 5 properties before they make a decision. Well, you may have others who take you out on 20 plus showings, right? And especially now in this market, where even if they do have the best of intentions and they do want to buy a home quickly, they may not be winning in these multiple offer situations. So that number could increase right now, especially in this market. But really interesting to know that on average, 9 homes viewed in about 10 weeks is ideally what you want to have as a system when you're working with buyers, because that seems to be the average there. All right, so this is also really interesting because this is how you can prepare as an agent. What is most difficult for home buyers and how can you help them? So as you can see here, again, I'm just going to focus on the average for all buyers. I won't go through each demographic. But for all buyers, it looks like the most challenging thing is to find the right property. So that's definitely an opportunity for you to figure out what it is that they're looking for. Ask the right questions. And I will get into that. Of course, you want to know what location they're looking in, what price point they're looking in. Oftentimes, price point will determine the location that they eventually buy in, right? So they may have a budget of 1.2 and they really want to stay in Toronto. That may not be possible, right? If their budget sort of restricts them and they are really looking for a detached home with a certain number of bedrooms, they may have to change their location. So, talking to them about really what their search criteria is, number of bedrooms, why, and layout also can be really important. So finding the right property really, if you know that that's the most challenging things for buyers, make sure that you're asking the right questions. I know of realtors who have worked with buyers in the past who, they have the criteria of a main floor master bedroom. So finding out maybe why that's the case, right? Do they have, in-laws that are living with them? Do they have, bad knees, that stairs are kind of difficult for them? So finding out what it is that they need, what they want, why, that's going to help you determine what the right property is for them. So when they send you a list of 10 properties that they want to see, or 5 properties that they want to see, you can assist them in eliminating some of those because it clearly doesn't meet what they're looking for. So if that's the most challenging thing for a home buyer, then make sure that that is your top priority to really assess what is it that you're looking for so I can help you find the right property. If the second most challenging thing is paperwork, then again, that's something that you're going to want to talk to them about and explain definitely the process and maybe having a system in place in order to do that. I will get into having a buyer's guide that you can share with your clients, definitely at the beginning of your relationship with them, and maybe also sharing the explain forms. So those are available to you. It's not something that you need to create. They are available to you on the OREA website, and you can download explain forms. So you can download the agreement of purchase and sale, you can download the confirmation of co-op, all the necessary documents, and they are already explained in plain English. You'll see writing in red that explains each and every clause in plain English. So it's not even something that you have to prepare. Simply knowing where those documents are, downloading them and sharing those documents with your clients before you get to the offer stage is going to make this less difficult for them, right? They're going to feel prepared. They're going to feel like they understand the paperwork before you just send them all of these documents to read by AuthentiSign, all of these documents to sign, and these may not be documents that they've ever, looked at before. So if you have a process in place where you have a conversation with that buyer, and then you're following up with an email, sending them a buyer's guide, attaching paperwork, that's all explained for them, this will eliminate this difficulty for them, right? They will understand the paperwork because they're working with a knowledgeable realtor, because they're working with you. So that goes hand in hand with understanding the steps and processes. I will share with you as well a buyer's roadmap. That is something I think really helpful in explaining the process to buyers. It also helps you stay on point. So if you have a buyer's roadmap, even that you bring with you to a showing, in addition to your MLS listings, that's something that you can show them. You can use it as your talking points as you go through the process. And again, it just really explains all of the steps. Now, of course, saving for a down payment, getting a mortgage, I know definitely talking to first-time home buyers, that's a huge struggle. So if they're not quite ready, again, stay in touch with them, do go to the in-person showing, so that when they are ready, when they have saved the down payment, when they have qualified for that mortgage, they think of you. If you just ask them over the phone whether or not they're pre-qualified and, they say no, and you refer them to Zolo mortgages, the chances of them coming back to you is less, of course, than if you had taken the time to actually meet with them. So yes, this can definitely be a struggle for home buyers, saving for the down payment, getting a mortgage, but still meet with them. Still talk to them about the process, even though they're not ready, because hopefully they'll come back and work with you later. All right, so I'll leave it at that. And then maybe take a look at this slide also that I think is also really insightful for us as agents. So what do buyers want most from real estate agents? So again, their biggest struggle, as they said in the last slide, was to find the right home. So of course, what they want from a realtor is that they're going to help them find that perfect dream home. So that's going to be top of the list. Of course, they also want their realtor to negotiate the terms of the sale, right? So making it favorable to them, hopefully getting them the best price possible. Again, right now it is really challenging because we have multiple offer situations and people are bidding way over what the comps would suggest. So that can be a little bit difficult, but again, preparing your client, letting them know that that's what the market is doing right now, so that they have the expectation that it is going to go for more and that they have to offer more. So yes, that ties into the price negotiations, helping with the paperwork, determining what are the comparable homes. So yeah, lots of things here, determining how much the home buyer can afford, helping them with financing. So again, that goes hand in hand with referring them to Zolo mortgages. As a Zolo agent, you have Zolo mortgages there to help you, and they will keep you in the loop and let you know what they qualify for, or if they don't qualify yet. So you can work really closely with Zolo mortgages, and they will help them, of course, arrange financing. So teaching them about neighborhoods, areas, really being a specialist in your area is of course so important, especially if you have a buyer who really did want to stay in Toronto, but given price point and desired type of home, they're having to move outside of their preferred neighborhood. If you're knowledgeable about that neighborhood, then it'll make them feel, of course, more confident, more excited about maybe trying something new and going outside of what they thought was their comfort zone. All right, so yeah, definitely if you are dealing with an investor, helping to find renters for your buyer's property, of course, that's definitely helpful if you have a buyer who's an investor. So those are some different things that buyers want from their realtors. And then another important slide here that I thought was really interesting, especially for newer agents joining us here on the webinar. It's actually funny to see that it's not the agent's experience that ranks the highest, it's the agent's honesty and trustworthiness. So again, it's not the experience, it's not even, by the sounds of it, the knowledge of the neighborhood or anything like that. It's just a feeling that the realtor they're working with is being honest with them and is being trustworthy. So I think that's a really important takeaway for you to focus. If you don't have the experience yet that you would like to have in real estate, that shouldn't stop you from working with buyers, as long as you're being honest with them and you're being trustworthy. So again, that just highlights the importance of having a buyer's guide, because that shows that you know the process, you're going to be honest with them, you're going to guide them through it, and they can trust you, right? So really having that as your focus, as opposed to, here are, all the homes that I've sold, especially if you don't have that experience yet. So really, hopefully this gives you a little bit of confidence that yes, this is the #1 factor that buyers are looking for, that their agent is honest and trustworthy over and above experience. So I'll just leave that there for you guys to digest, because I think that that's a really important takeaway. All right, one of the things that I did want to mention as well is, of course, lead generation. And here at Zolo, as you know, we do have leads coming into our CRM all of the time. They're always being assigned to us. And as soon as they select information about a property, that is when we get back to them with that information. So a couple of things. Think of your real estate business sort of like a table, and you need to have those 4 pillars to support that table to make it really strong and really sturdy. So 4 pillars, meaning that one of your sources of leads, of course, is going to be your Zolo leads. So those hot leads that come in, they've just requested information about a property online. You're going to get back to them within the first 5 minutes. Again, you're not going to pre-qualify them as heavily as you would a lease lead over the phone, because you do want to get to the in-person showing. You do want to have that rapport start to build, that relationship start to build. So that's definitely, the goal with the Zolo leads. It's speed to the lead, call them right away, and convert them to a showing. So in addition to your Zolo leads, you want to, of course, have those Zolo leads that you've already spoken to and you're following up with. So definitely have a follow-up system. As you know, in the CRM, you can have a conversation with the lead and you can schedule a follow-up. I feel like that button sometimes is underutilized. It is so important to schedule follow-ups. You don't just want to be plugging in your calls, having your leads get filtered into an engaged folder, and then it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Definitely schedule a follow-up so that you can reach out to these people, all of your leads, with information. So let's just say, for example, they have contacted you about a property that is, let's say, sold conditional. It doesn't happen a lot right now in this market. Most things are selling firm, but let's just say that you have a property they inquired about and it's conditional. You can see right on the MLS listing what the condition is and when it expires. So schedule a follow-up for when that condition expires so that you can call that lead back with information. You always want to have a reason for your call. It's an easier conversation to have than if you just schedule a follow-up. What are you calling them to say? So schedule a follow-up to let them know what the property sold for, if it did firm up, or if it failed, scheduling a showing. So having a reason for the follow-up. Lots of different situations here that you might want to follow up with. Of course, if you showed them a property and they're accepting offers on Monday, schedule a follow-up for Saturday or Sunday to see if they do in fact want to proceed with submitting an offer. So always have a reason, in that note section when you're scheduling follow-ups, because you want to stay in touch with your buyer leads. Don't just focus on the new hot leads that are coming in. Everybody that you speak to is somebody that you want to touch base with. Now, of course, sometimes there's going to be a lead that you may not have a reason to follow up with. So that gets a little bit tricky sometimes. But what I encourage you to do is to invite them to your social media. Definitely have, a Facebook business page, Instagram account. These are things that are free and give you credibility. Because if somebody contacts you and they have a good conversation with you, because, they were referred to you or assigned to you through the Zolo website, they might do a little bit of digging. Who is this agent? And if there's no online information about them, it doesn't help with your credibility. So again, we want to be trustworthy. So you definitely want to have some sort of platform out there. Websites, of course, cost money. Eventually, you might want to have your own website, but at the very least, have your social media so that you can invite people to follow you on social media. You can do market updates so that this is how they see you and they're reminded of you all the time. Now, of course, Facebook business pages are, maybe not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It might be not as in front of them as you would like it to be. So my suggestion for that 4th pillar is to have an email newsletter. So that's a really great way. Make sure that you are capturing all of those email addresses. So every conversation that you have, you capture those emails and put it into some sort of a database. Now, having a separate CRM or having something like MailChimp, I know that does cost money, but it does pay for itself. Once you build that database, all of those conversations that you're having with all of those buyers that you're getting from the Zolo system, definitely make sure that you have some sort of a monthly newsletter where you're reaching out to them. Again, systematically, so that if you don't have a specific follow-up for them, at least you're staying in touch on a regular basis so that, again, when it does come time to buy properties, they will think of you. So just a few suggestions there on making your business have a really strong foundation. All right, so I'm getting a few questions here. So let me just take a look at these. If we refer clients to Zolo Mortgages, is there a referral fee, as we need to inform the buyer if we get fees? Yeah, great question. And I don't believe that there is a referral fee with Zolo Mortgages, but we do have Mihir joining us on Thursday, so he'll be able to address that if that's changed. So yeah, join us on Thursday. All right. Where do we get a buyer's guide? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to recommend a few places. One of them is breakthroughbroker.com. I'll just quickly put it in the chat here. Breakthroughbroker.com. And I always recommend this website because, again, I like to recommend things that are free and they have a bunch of templates that you can download, and one of them is a buyer's guide. So I'll share with you here a buyer's guide as well, or at least a template of what it looks like. Awesome. All right, so calling buyers, let's talk about this conversation, because again, if we're transitioning from working with lease leads and we're talking now to buyers, it's a very different type of call. With lease leads, you are pre-qualifying them pretty heavily on the phone because there are so many lease leads that you're going to get, and you want to make sure, of course, that you're spending your time with lease leads that are qualified, right? You don't want to be running around with somebody who's not qualified. So you want to get their credit score, you want to get their income. The great thing about working with buyers is that the only role that you're playing now is just the role of realtor. You're no longer the mortgage broker trying to qualify them. Leave that to the mortgage broker to qualify the buyers. You just play the role of realtor. And when the deal closes, you have a lawyer who steps in for closing, right? Which again is different than when you're working with lease leads, where you're doing that, residential tenancy agreement, and you're sort of, doing the key exchange. When you're working with buyers, you really get to concentrate on just being a realtor. So let's talk about the conversation that you're going to have with buyers and how to qualify them less. Really, the takeaway here is going to be that you want to make sure that they're not already working with another realtor. They're not already committed in writing to working with another realtor. And then that gives you the opportunity to build that rapport and hopefully have them as your client. So let's take a quick look at this acronym that I've shared before, LP Mama. And this is what you want to basically ask. Hopefully you get some of this information from them. Again, qualifying them lightly, not as much as you would a lease lead, but really finding out what it is that they're looking for. So again, going back to those earlier slides, what do buyers struggle with? If their biggest struggle is to find the perfect home, then that's definitely what you want to determine. What location are you looking in? What price point are you wanting to look in or stay within? And that's definitely going to go hand in hand. So as I said before, if there's somebody who's looking in Toronto, but their price point is 1.2, I'm, making this up, that might be, limiting, right? So if they do want a specific property with, a certain number of bedrooms, then you might want to talk to them about expanding their area, kind of having an open mind. But definitely, talking to them about their motivation. Again, this is going to give you a good indicator as to, not only why they're moving, but what they need, right? So again, using that example of the main floor master bedroom, that's kind of a unique ask, right? So what is it that that is forcing them to need that, right? Just finding out as much information as you can so that you can present them with those properties that have those features, right? So you're not showing them properties that have 3 stories if the husband has bad knees or whatever the situation is. You are really focusing on their specific criteria, and you're tailoring your services to them, and you're making sure that you are only showing them what is going to be of interest. You definitely want to make sure that they're not already working with an agent. You would like to ask them if they have been pre-qualified for a mortgage, but again, not necessary. Don't make that a deal breaker. If they haven't been pre-qualified, still go to the in-person appointment. So there's your acronym, LP Mama: location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, and appointment. So if that's something you want to have in front of you while you're doing your phone calls, while you're talking to buyers, definitely something that you can take away, right? Realtors can and should use the buyer representation register. Oh yes, the buyer registration register on TREB. Yeah, actually, great point. That's something that I don't usually talk about, but you're right, it is underutilized. If you have a buyer representation agreement, you should be registering your buyer, and I know a lot of agents don't. So good point, and definitely that will take me to the buyer representation agreement itself. Super, super important to get them to sign that. And of course, that's always the question. When do we get them to sign that? When do we introduce it? And that's where the buyer's guide comes in, because it kind of introduces things for you and allows you to talk about these things. So the buyer representation agreement, definitely something you want to introduce at the beginning. You don't want to force them to sign it right away. You can even just let them know, this is the buyer representation agreement. This is a contract between the two of us where I commit to you and you commit to working with me. So definitely something that needs to be signed eventually, but let's get to know each other first before we commit entirely. So we can talk a little bit more about the buyer representation agreement in a minute. But here's the roadmap that I was talking about. So this is something that, again, you can download from Breakthrough Broker. You can include this with your showings. You can include it even in your follow-up email after that initial phone call, and just have a conversation about what the process is. So again, going back to that other slide about how it's really important for buyers to trust their agent, this is going to be how you start to build that trust, right? You're explaining the process. You're showing them that you know what the process is and you're going to guide them through it, right? So they want to be able to trust you in doing that. So what's the roadmap? Meet with a real estate professional before getting pre-approved. I love that that is in this order because, again, don't disqualify them if they haven't been pre-approved. Guide them through that process as well. Refer them to Zolo Mortgages, right? Work with Mahir and the agents at Zolo Mortgages to determine whether or not they're going to be pre-approved right away or maybe later, right? And if it is later, don't forget about them. Don't hope that they just come back to you. Still, inform them of properties that are coming up that are available that might be of interest to them so that when they are ready, they've been kind of watching the market and you've been watching it with them. So meet, with these buyer leads, have that face-to-face conversation, regardless of whether or not they've been pre-approved. But of course, once they do get that pre-approval, then you can really target the search for homes. So now you know exactly what their price point is, and you've had conversations about what their needs are and why. So you can search for homes that actually match that search criteria. It's really, really powerful to know what it is that they're looking for so that when they do send you 5 properties that they want to see that are clearly not what they said they were looking for, then you can kind of help them narrow it down so that you are only showing them those 9 properties over, a few weeks instead of 100 properties, right? You're helping them really stay focused and, targeted. So once they do find a property, then of course the next step is to prepare an offer. So this is where you can talk to them about what's happening in the market now, what their expectations should be. So for example, right now, it's a seller's market. So definitely making an offer. We will likely be in competition. It's going to be important to put our best foot forward, highest and best number right out of the gate. Probably no conditions, right? So talking to them about what to expect so that they're not blindsided by that information. So making an offer, that's your opportunity to talk to them about the market. And then you can talk to them about how you are going to negotiate the contract, which right now probably means telling them what the offer date is, how it's going to be presented by email, when you should expect to hear back, and then hopefully it is under contract. It does get accepted, and then you can work through final details, which usually means all of the buyer's due diligence, so such as the inspection and financing. But of course, right now, if you're submitting a firm offer, there's probably not a lot of final details other than delivering the deposit check, right? So again, having a conversation with them about that, whether they're delivering the deposit check after it's accepted, or are you presenting the contract with their deposit check in hand? So that might be a strategy that you suggest. So again, using this as kind of a guideline to talk about what the process is and what's actually happening in the market right now and how to best position their offer so that it does get accepted. So the last step, which you probably can't see, is closing day. So having something like this that you can share with your clients, again, this is something that you could easily email to them after your conversation, but of course something also that you can talk to them about when you actually do the in-person showing and you're meeting them face to face. All right, I have a question coming in here. I have a client who is planning to sell and buy new. What is the best way to proceed in this market? Should I put offer and secure the property first or list the house first in the seller's market? Great question. And that's going to come down to your buyers and their comfort level. So I know a lot of sellers right now are waiting to find something to buy first because they don't want to be in a timeline where their offers aren't getting accepted and they don't have anything to move into and they have this, looming closing date because they've already sold their property. So I would say, right now, having a conversation with those buyers, finding out what their comfort level is probably the way to go. But if they're buying new, if they're buying pre-construction, then that's usually easier and not as, you won't have those, multiple offer situations. You'll just have a, close, like not a closing date, but a occupancy date, right? So not pre-construction. Okay, just a new home. So yeah, speaking to your clients about what their comfort level is. And here's where you get to be creative also. If you do have a buyer who does have a property to sell, those are always good situations to be in as a realtor. It is a seller's market. So if you were to talk to them about them selling first, maybe talking to them about having a clause in their contract where, you know, if they did sell the property, maybe they have a long close, maybe it's 90 days, and then maybe adding a clause in there that the seller can extend that, you know, with a certain notice period, right? So that gives them some flexibility also, so that that closing date isn't a hard deadline. It's something that they can move. So adding a clause in there like that might give them a little bit more comfort to sell now, take advantage of the market, and find something to buy, you know, hopefully within the next 3 months. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, if you need help before submitting the offer, absolutely, you can reach out to your growth manager. I think you're on my team, so you can reach out to me and I can share that clause with you. So it's something that you can put in the offer for sure. Awesome. All right. So let's take a look at this typical call structure. So when you are talking to buyers, they've come into your CRM, you're calling them back right away. Just let them know you're an agent with Zolo.ca. I find that if you say Zolo Realty, it doesn't resonate as much as saying Zolo.ca. Just remind them what they inquired about and then ask how you can help. Super powerful way to begin a conversation. I will say here that there is a phone lab coming up on Wednesdays for 4 weeks. So if you're not comfortable with making phone calls, especially transitioning from those conversations with lease leads to now buyer leads, I highly recommend signing up for that, and I will make sure that I include that in the email following this webinar. So you have the breakdown here, you know, introducing yourself, asking how you can help. That basically gives them the floor, right? So they can start telling you what it is they're looking for and why. You can use that LP Mama script to determine location, price, motivation. So having that conversation with them, really understanding their needs. That's what it says here, finding out what they're looking for, what their motivation is, when they're looking to move, their timeline, and then turning the tables so that now you can explain the process to them. And the way you can do that is simply by asking them, are you familiar with the buying process? And it doesn't matter if they say yes or no, because this is your opportunity to explain, right? So even if they say, yes, we're familiar, great, then you know that right now the market is really competitive. So, you know, talking about multiple offers, talking about, you know, firm offers. So having that discussion with them so that they know what to expect. So are you familiar with the process? Gives you the opportunity to talk about the market. And then when would you like to see some properties? So converting them to that showing appointment. So if they did inquire about one property on Zolo, which is usually what happens, we get, you know, an inquiry from somebody that they're interested in one property, maybe offering to show them alternatives as well. So more than just that one property they inquired about, but maybe pulling up several properties in that area. Definitely following up after this conversation with an email, and then also listings directly from your MLS listing so that they can also take a look at other properties that do fit their search criteria, that they can easily reply back to you and say, yes, we'd like to see these 3 as well as the one we inquired about. So again, that just increases your chances of them liking something, so that you can go ahead and hopefully get an offer written. All right. So as I said, between the phone call, so after having that initial phone call and before you actually meet them on a showing, this is your opportunity to send them that buyer's guide that we discussed earlier. You can also in the email confirm their search criteria, confirm an appointment time that you may have set. So, you know, it's Tuesday today, maybe you scheduled an appointment hopefully for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is, confirm that. And then this is your opportunity to start furthering that relationship. So yes, they've already seen you on the Zolo website. Every single time they request information about a property, they've been assigned to you. So they see your face every single time they inquire about a property. And now they've had a conversation with you. And now you're going to follow up with an email that maybe has a link to your website if you do have a website, or as I said before, a link to your social media page, you know, where you're updating, you know, it doesn't have to be all real estate, it could be personal. But if you do have a website, hopefully you have an About Me page that you can share with them. And again, if you don't have a ton of real estate experience yet, talk about your past experience, talk about who you are. You know, this is where you can start to build that relationship, as I said. And maybe it's not so much about, you know, who you've worked with and what homes you've sold, but what your hobbies and relationship, you know, maybe there's some commonality there between you and the person you were speaking with. So definitely, you know, have an about me that doesn't just talk about real estate. It's a little bit more personal. There's a few things that you can do in addition to that buyer's guide. Is you can maybe have a buyer questionnaire. This is something else that you can download from Breakthrough Broker, and it really kind of dives deeper into that LP Mama script, right? So it could be a buyer questionnaire that you can create as a Google form, which makes it really easy for them to fill in and share with you. So I think I've got a couple of examples here. But yeah, these are the examples of the buyer guides that you can download directly from Breakthrough Broker. Also in the Zolo CRM, there is a buyer's guide that you can download as a PDF. So take information from there, put it into your buyer's guide, talk to them about why they should be not only choosing you, but why they should be choosing Zolo as well, right? So having access to all of the properties that are listed across the multiple MLS boards is one of the many reasons why they should be using the Zolo website. And then of course, why they should be working with you. You're a buyer specialist. Instead of them having to reach out to all of the listing agents individually, you can schedule showings back to back. You will schedule an itinerary for them, making it really easy, taking all of the legwork off of their plate, and you can schedule showings back to back. So all they need to do is tell you what properties they want to see. So again, following up with some sort of a buyer's guide, download this one from Breakthrough Broker. If you want other examples, I believe there's some also on the Zolo Academy, so I will share that those links for you afterwards. But yeah, so this just gives them, again, a little bit more information about that buyer process. So it's not enough to just talk about it and mention it over the phone. You want to be sending roadmaps and buyer's guides, and just to reiterate so that you know that they really truly did you know, understand the process and that there aren't any questions when you get to the offer stage. So as you can see here, this is also a buyer's packet. Again, something you can download from Breakthrough Broker. This is where you can find that questionnaire. And the questionnaire is actually quite lengthy, so you can take from it what you like and put that into maybe a Google form and adding it to that follow-up email. But yeah, definitely as part of that buyer's guide, buyer's package, whatever you want to call it, having information about yourself, make it personal, as I said, what services you offer, you know, the process, of course, you know, such as that roadmap that I shared earlier. And then, of course, the forms. So, you know, you might want to save that until a little bit later so that you don't overwhelm them with information, but it is a really good idea to share the offer forms with them and downloading the explain forms from the OREA website, which you have there, orea.com, so that you can just share those and it explains all of the documents to them in plain English. Getting a comment here, is the Zolo buyer's guide up to date or the listing guide? So there's a seller's guide and a buyer's guide. It was prepared a while ago. I think the only thing that's out of date is that it talks about the fact that we have 4 million visitors to the website, and I believe now we're at over 11 million. So that's a significant change. So yeah, they are there. There's still information that you can take from there, but I think that's the only thing that would be out of date. All right, this is the questionnaire that, again, you can take from this what you like. It's just more information. The more information you can get from your buyers, the better. Of course, you've already had this conversation with them, but there will be some things that maybe you don't talk about over the phone, right? Where would you like to buy the property? What's the specific area? What's the school district? Sure, those are probably things that you speak about, but I think that there was some other questions here that dive a little bit deeper. You know, what features do your family members require? I think there was another question here about what they might want from their realtor, which I think is a great question and probably not something that you would bring up in conversation, but or maybe you do, but if you make it part of your questionnaire, it's kind of an interesting question to ask. So what's important to them when working with an agent and what are they looking for, right? Really great question to ask. So here it goes into financing and pricing, what their ideal home looks like. So of course, these are, you know, details that you might not bring up in conversation. Again, you can download this as something that they fill in, but it's probably going to be more likely that they fill out a Google form. And you know, I'm going to pause here for a second and just suggest something else, because I've had conversations with the top producers here at Zolo, and some of them have implemented these buyer consultations where, you know, instead of it just being an initial conversation, It's a Zoom call that's being done. And then these questions, you could dive in a little bit deeper if it's more of a formal buyer's consultation. You can ask these questions, instead of, just preparing the Google form, but actually having a conversation and a consultation with your buyers. So doing, virtual buyer consultations, definitely something that I know a lot of realtors have implemented because of COVID. So it definitely gets you to know your clients a lot better, instead of just relying on that quick initial phone conversation. All right, I'm getting a comment here about buyer checklist. Yeah, so there is a buyer checklist in the in Breakthrough Broker that you can download. I'm not sure if there's one in the Academy. I'll double check, but yeah, I'll see what I have and I can send that to you for sure. If you guys are not familiar with the OREA Explain forms, this is what it looks like. So this is the agreement of purchase and sale. As you can see, there's some writing in red, and that is what explains the forms. So as you can see here, it says, for example, the deposit. A buyer typically submits a deposit on the purchase of the property. It demonstrates the buyer's sincerity and good faith in the purchase transaction. When a deposit is to be delivered can vary at the discretion of the buyer to be accepted or negotiated by the seller, right? So these forms are explained. Of course, you're going to want to also talk about this and let them know that typically, the deposit is going to be at least 5% of the purchase price, again, especially in this market, if not more. So having that conversation, it's, much more, it's much more advantageous to submit the deposit herewith. So when you are presenting the offer, you can present the deposit with your offer. It shows that your clients, again, are ready to go. They already have the deposit in bank draft, payable to the listing brokerage, because otherwise, typically, it's delivered 24 hours after acceptance. So if you're attaching that deposit to your offer, that just shows the sellers that your buyer is really motivated, and there isn't going to be any delay with the deposit check the next day. So that's something that you can do, something that you can discuss with your clients in addition to taking a look at these forms. So it goes into irrevocability, the completion date, which is typically, in line with what the sellers want. At once, it talks about notices. So again, you can go through these forms with them and really explain what it is that's being completed here. What's going to be included with the property, what's going to be excluded. So if they really want that chandelier, in the foyer, make sure that that's included. Rental items, of course, is something that, you want to make sure that you put in there. So you're reaching out to the listing agent to find out, if the hot water tank is a rental. And of course, letting your clients know if it is or not. So you can explain these forms and go through each and every item with them. Such as HST, title search, future use. So the great thing about using these forms is that if you don't know what a clause is about, all you have to do is just read the writing in red. All right. Can completion date be on the weekend? No, because lawyers need it to be between Monday to Wednesday in order to do the closing and the registration. So it has to be done on a Monday to Friday. So good question about that. All right, so showings, I won't get into this too much, but of course, it's nice to have your showings scheduled and an itinerary that makes sense in geographical order. Send that to your clients once everything is confirmed so that they know exactly where they're meeting you and what's next. So again, being that buyer specialist and really walking them through the process. And you're the guide, you're the tour guide on these showings, and you are the guide with the paperwork as well. So I won't talk too much about showings, because I know we're at the end of time as well. I've talked a lot about preparing the client, and I just want to, reiterate that by saying that yes, you're preparing your client, after that initial phone call, on the initial phone call, after the initial phone call, during the showings, before an offer. You're really always preparing the client. Nothing should come as a surprise. If you have a client who's surprised about something, make sure that you explain that better next time, right? Because you don't want any surprises. You don't want your client to feel overwhelmed. You want them to know exactly what to expect in a multiple offer situation, because you've already talked about it, at several different stages through the process. So this is another roadmap that, again, you can download from Breakthrough Broker. I like this one because it matches our Zolo colors. So go ahead and use this one if you prefer. But again, there's lots of different ones that you can download and, again, bring with you to the showing. Having the BRA signed. So this is something that comes up. I'll probably end the session with this because the BRA is something that you definitely want to bring up at some point, right? So we've had lots of opportunities here to educate our clients on the process. Definitely talk to them about the buyer representation agreement. And don't be afraid to say that you are committing to them. You're going to be spending time with them, showing them properties. You're going to be loyal to them, and you're hoping for the same in return, that they're loyal to you. So if they have intentions of using another realtor, please have them let you know sooner rather than later. If they have a friend or a family member that they're going to use, then that's who they should be using for showings. Because if you're going to be loyal to them, it's not too much to ask for the same in return. And you do need to get this commitment in writing. Typically speaking, the buyer representation agreement is signed when you're preparing that first offer. But with buyers, because there's usually such a long process, or it's longer than what you experience with lease leads, you're showing them properties probably multiple times before they actually find something and do want to submit an offer. Make sure that you do have that buyer representation agreement hopefully signed before the offer stage. But if they do get to the offer stage quite quickly, then you can have that buyer representation agreement signed at the same time. And yes, I was just about to address that, so thanks for dropping in the chat. Can the BRA be for a particular property? Yes, absolutely. So sometimes we do work with clients that don't like contracts, right? They don't want to commit to working with us for 3 months, and that's okay. Offer to still prepare the offer for that particular property, or have a BRA for that particular property. So, if they're hesitant to commit to 3 months, then that's okay. You can prepare the buyer representation agreement instead of for Oakville. Generally, you would just put in the specific property in the geographic location. So that authorizes you to be their agent for that particular property. And I know that it's something that some realtors will even do before showing. It's not my style, but everybody has their own style. If you show up to a property and you present them with the BRA, that just means that if they do decide to purchase this property, that they are going to be working with you on that particular property, that they'll use you to write the offer. So again, it's something that you may want to do for a specific property at the beginning, but typically that's done because they don't want to sign a BRA for a lengthy term. Keep the term to less than 6 months. If it's longer than 6 months, then you need an extra initial on the page. It's also kind of a nice way of letting them know that the typical time frame is 6 months, and if it's more, they would have to sign that signature. But typically it's less, and typically you can help them find something in less time. So anywhere between 3 to 6 months is probably the average term of a buyer representation agreement, and hopefully you are able to help them with multiple properties, and it's not just for one specific property. Do keep in mind another note that if you are having a BRA signed, not to put in GTA as your geographic location, just because that's too broad. If there's ever an issue later on with your buyer representation agreement, you want it to hold water, right? So if you are helping them, for example, in Oakville and Mississauga and maybe Hamilton, do specify those 3 areas instead of just saying GTA. So be specific on your BRA. All right, let me know if you guys have any questions about any of this so far. I do have the BRA here, and I'll just show you where I meant that geographic location, not to put in the general GTA term, but rather specify the actual areas that you are going to help your buyers find a property in. All right. Preparing the offer, we are talking on Wednesday, tomorrow. We're going to be talking about web forms, and I always go into web forms. I do a live training session on how to fill in the forms, so please join me for that. Also on Wednesdays right now coming up, we have the call lab. So if you're feeling a little bit nervous about having these phone conversations with buyers, then definitely sign up for that. I think there are a few spots left. And then, as I said, Zolo Mortgages is joining us on Thursday. So if you have questions about how to put your clients in touch with them, they can let us know. All right, so questions coming in. So if you would put the full address in the geographic location, yes, exactly. So you would just put in, 1234 Main Street, Oakville in that line instead of saying Oakville generally. Yeah. Sorry, did somebody turn on their mic? Chat with me if you have questions.
Hi, Jen. This is Hemant here. A quick question. Suppose the property is listed, like below the market price, which is I deal recently, in Oshawa, the property listed 488, which is a detached bungalow. When I checked like recently, like last 3 months, the property sold with the similar feature was like around maximum 630, 40. So obviously, like when it means like it was listed below the market price. When I asked the listing agent, like how much your buyer, your salary is expecting. So he said like, I quoted like my client is interested to put the offer without, without any condition, approximately $600,000. Is that okay? Then he said like way more. Then way more means like he was even then I asked like 650, then even say like no, even more. So my question is like, suppose like I asked my client to put the offer like even like $700,000 and he accepted, how the things will work with the bank, right? Does the bank will also consider the CMA kind of thing and come up with the same price like 650 to $700,000, or he will consider like 480 or $500,000, where the price is like gap is too much and we can be in trouble to qualify the buyer for that amount. How
Yeah,
to
so
how to approach this situation?
Yeah, so actually this is a great question for me here for Zolo mortgages, because they deal with this all the time. So if an appraisal comes in and it is less than what the buyer bought the property for, there's obviously going to be a shortfall there. So hopefully your buyer has the cash to cover the difference. But if they don't, then I know Mahir and the agents at Zolo Mortgages have come up with some solutions. So we'll have definitely a conversation with him on Thursday about that, and he can let us know how they're sort of working with those situations. And he'll let us know also if appraisals are coming in, less than what people are buying. Of course that does happen, and there are situations, but right now we are in a seller's market. Right now people are, bidding over because there is less inventory, which should mean that they are, buying at what is considered now fair market value. So I don't know that all of the appraisals are coming in with a shortfall, but Mahir has all the experience in that realm, so he can answer that question better on Thursday.
But if my client wanna back off, like even though without condition, okay, we put the offer like $700,000, and if later the bank say no, we cannot, we can only give like $650,000. So, and if he need to pull out from the offer, how things work? Will the seller can sue later on, or can keep only the deposit? How things work?
Yes, so that is definitely something that the buyer needs to understand right now, that in this market, if they are submitting a firm offer, it is a firm offer, and they must, they are contractually obligated to complete the sale. So if there is a shortfall, if the example that you said, if they offer 700 and it's appraised at 650, hopefully they have an extra 50,000, they can cover that difference. But if not, then yes, it could result in a messy situation. So yeah, we'll definitely have Mahir address that on Thursday. And lastly here, I'm getting a question about comparables. So I do have that on the training calendar, and we will talk about comparables, because yes, right now it's a tricky question, because comparables, when you're looking even 3 months ago, they're not relevant to what properties are selling for now. So comparables are tricky right now. But I will do my best to walk you through how to pull those right now in an upcoming training session this month. All right, so before I end things, I'm just gonna pull up a quick survey. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what other training you're interested in, and I'll do my best to implement it into the training calendar. I've got 1 more minute if you guys don't mind answering this for me quickly. And thank you so much for your questions. I always appreciate the interaction. I have one more coming in here. After offer is accepted, if client does not want to deliver the deposit money, yeah, so that's a tricky question as well. If they have cold feet and they decide not to deliver the deposit, technically, again, it is an accepted offer. If they decide not to deliver it and the seller can't get that price, there might be a lawsuit in there, but hopefully the sellers are just able to find somebody else, especially in this market. So again, another tricky question. All right, well, thank you so much for answering the poll. I'll leave it up here for 5 more seconds. 21 out of 38 of you have replied. Thank you so much. So yeah, it looks like upcoming training, converting showings to deals. Yes, that's always the trick, right? Ask for the business, right? Don't just open doors and hope that they call you when they, because they've slept on it and they like property number 1. Ask for the business. What do you think? Do you like this property better than the next one? And offer to prepare the offer. Ask for the business, absolutely. All right, I will end the poll. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me today. And if you have questions, reach out to me, reach out to your growth manager, and I will see you guys on the next webinar. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.